While the jury's, Ms. Medina, do you want to waive your client's appearance or do you want her here? Okay. Please put a note not to bring Ms. Gardner. Thank you. All right, welcome back. Everyone may be seated. Mr. Mizrahi.
Dr. Peter Gillespie.
Dr. Peter Gillespie, please. Good afternoon, doctor. If you could walk all the way forward. Sir, if you raise your right hand to be sworn in.
Doctor, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
All right, thank you. This way. Watch your step, doctor, okay? You may proceed.
May it please the court. Doctor, let me know when you're ready.
Okay, just give me 1 second to get a glass of water. Whenever you are.
Please introduce yourself to the jury.
Certainly. My name is Peter Gillespie. I'm a medical doctor, currently employed as an associate medical examiner in the District 4 Medical Examiner's Office here in Jacksonville.
How long have you been so employed?
Here in Jacksonville for a little bit over 12 years.
How long have you worked in various medical examiner offices?
25 years this year.
What is a medical examiner, and kind of explain to the jury how the whole system works?
Sure. A medical examiner under our system is someone who's tasked with determining the cause and manner of death, usually in a government organization of some kind. Sometimes it's at the state level, sometimes at the county or the judicial district level, as it is here in Florida. We're tasked with doing autopsies, to determine cause and manner of death, as well as testifying cases, do some teaching of associated medical professionals and the public.
Is the medical examiner's office a law enforcement agency?
No, it is an independent agency.
And so do you work for the sheriff's office or the state attorney's office or the courts or anything like that?
No, I do not.
And are you an associate medical examiner?
I'm an associate medical examiner.
How does the chief medical examiner get appointed?
That's an appointed position, usually by the state attorney or by an elected, a selection committee nominated by that person.
Okay. So ultimately, the medical examiner hires associates to conduct these autopsies.
That's correct.
And you are a medical doctor.
Yes.
Explain to the jury what training and, more importantly, education that you have that allows you to come to courts like this and testify.
Sure. I have a bachelor's degree from UMass Boston in biology. Following that, I did 4 years at a medical school, so I am a medical doctor. Following that, I did 5 years of combined general pathology training at Dartmouth-Hitchcock Medical Center in New Hampshire. And following that, I did 1 year of specialized forensic pathology fellowship training at the medical examiner's office in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
And so when did you start working as a medical examiner?
I started working as a medical examiner in the summer of 2001.
So you've been doing it for a long time.
Well, 25 years seems like a long time, but
So explain to the jury, you are licensed to practice medicine, correct?
yes, I have an unrestricted license to practice medicine here in the state of Florida.
Explain to the jury what pathology is.
Pathology is the general study of the diseases that affect humans.
And so you have a specialty in that arena.
I do.
And what is forensics?
Forensics as forensic pathology takes those principles as well as some additional training involving injuries to try to apply those principles to more legal issues than a general pathologist would normally deal with.
And so you are a forensic pathologist.
Yes, I am.
As a medical examiner, what are you trying to determine?
We try to determine the cause and manner of death. Now, the cause of death is, those are two separate things. The cause of death is the immediate or proximate disease process or injury or combination that leads to someone's death. The manner of death is a general classification of the kind or the type of death. So, for instance, that might be a natural death or an accident or a suicide or a homicide, or sometimes in a very small number of cases, we cannot determine that, and those remain unclassified or undetermined.
So the cause of death, can you give an example of a cause of death?
Well, a cause of death could be coronary artery disease. It could be multiple blood traumatic injuries in a car crash. It could be a result of violence like gunshot wounds or stab wounds. So that is a much more specific thing than the manner of death.
In the manner, you gave 5 examples. Are those the 5 manners of death that are accepted in your field?
Yes, here in Florida. Some other states have an additional one which involves the effects of medical intervention, but we in Florida do not have that.
So have you been allowed to give your opinion in your field of forensic pathology as to cause and manner of death?
I have here in Florida as well as in the state of Rhode Island where I worked for a short period of time.
Approximately how many times have you done so?
I never kept an exact count. I would say probably 100 times, give or take a little bit.
All right, this time I would tender for voir dire and additional questioning, as this witness is an expertise in forensic pathology and his ability to give his opinion in that field.
Any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I want to turn your attention to medical examiner number 22-441. Do you have your medical record with you?
I do.
If you need to refer to it, just let us know that you're doing that. Have you had the occasion to refer to that medical record before testifying here today?
I did. I reviewed the medical record as well as the scene photographs and the photographs that were taken at the time of the autopsy.
So when we talk about medical record number, medical examiner number 22-441, what does that stand for?
That stands for basically everything associated with this specific case. Every individual case that our office takes jurisdiction over is assigned a specific, unique number just to that case. So, for instance, the autopsy report, the toxicology report, the photographs would all be classified and organized under that specific number.
And so in reviewing that autopsy, this time, before we get into it, Your Honor, I think the parties are stipulating that the autopsy of 22-441 was performed upon Jared Bridegan, the named victim in the indictment.
Is that correct?
That is correct, we stipulate.
All right, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. So do you conduct an autopsy in the vast majority of your cases?
I would say probably in 80 to 90% of the cases which we take jurisdiction over, we do full autopsies, yes.
And just, I guess we could have gotten this in the preliminary questions. If a person has a deadly cancer and they're under the treatment of a doctor and they end up dying as a result of that cancer, does that case come to the medical examiner's?
Those cases generally do not come to the medical examiner's office. It doesn't really meet the statutory guidelines set out here in Florida. And their doctor or doctors usually know the cause and manner of death because they've been treating them for a long time for a known potentially lethal disease.
So what types of cases do you normally get?
We take cases that involve accidents like traffic accidents or drug overdoses. All suicides fall under our jurisdiction. Natural cases for when someone does not have an attending physician, and as well as all cases of homicidal violence, regardless of how that's actually done, those become our cases.
Is a general category sudden and unexplained deaths?
Sudden unexplained deaths or unusual circumstances, yes, those become our responsibility.
So what is an autopsy? Could you explain that to the jury?
Certainly, an autopsy is an examination of the body, beginning on the outside of the body and working our way inside, as well as examining all the internal organs for signs of disease or trauma, and looking at tissue under the microscope, and when appropriate, submitting toxicology specimens that we draw at the time of the autopsy.
Is part of your examination and rendering your ultimate opinion take into account the autopsy as well as scene factors from the scene and how the body is recovered?
It is. Actually, we are allowed to use not only the autopsy findings, but any kind of additional information which may be generated, like hospital records or police reports, fire rescue reports, reports of the scene circumstances. We're allowed to use all that information to draw our final conclusions.
In some cases, your conclusions are very, I won't say difficult, but more labor intensive than others. Is that fair?
That is correct.
And sometimes it's as simple as gunshot wounds.
That's correct.
Okay. So that's what we have in this case, but I still want to spend some time going over it. When the body comes into your office, does it come in as is? In other words, do you try your best to take it in its natural state, the body's natural state from the scene before you begin your examination?
Yes, the body is brought in as is. So, for instance, if a person is clothed, the clothing remains on the body. The only unusual procedure we do with homicides, if they are at the scene, we place bags over their hands in an attempt to preserve any evidentiary material that might be on the hands. But they are brought in as is, and actually they are photographed as is before I even begin my examination.
So you mentioned something interesting that we can talk about with the jury. Is part of your duties as an associate medical examiner to collect evidence for potential law enforcement investigation?
It is.
And why is that? Why do y'all do that?
Well, one kind of evidence, especially if people have actually physically interacted, there may be DNA transfer between people, especially under fingernails, if it's a physical fight or someone's defending themselves. So we do collect that evidence. Other types of evidence that actually is inside the body, like intact projectiles or projectile fragments, we are also tasked with recovering those. So, yes, anything of evidentiary value, even including the clothing, we do collect and usually photograph at the time of the autopsy.
So before we get into the specific photographs and not, were you able to determine the cause of Jared Bridegan's death?
I was.
What was it?
He died as a result of multiple gunshot wounds.
And what was the manner of death?
The manner of death has been classified as homicide.
So did you measure and weigh Mr. Bridegan?
We did. We do that with every case we have, and we did that in his case.
And I know it's not like 100% precise, but generally, what was his height and weight?
We measured him when he came to our office at 71 inches in height and weighing 243 pounds.
Were there any tattoos or piercings or other distinguishing features on his body or skin that you notated?
I did not see any tattoos or piercings. He had a couple of scars, including a very large abdominal scar along his lower abdomen, all the way across the lower abdomen.
And did that appear to be some type of medical scar?
It is a medical scar, and it's usually associated with might generally be called a tummy tuck operation.
So were photographs taken during the course of your examination?
Yes, they were.
Why is photography so important?
Well, I guess it could be said that photographs don't lie, and they're better than the best memory. But they also document injuries, identifying marks, evidence that we might collect. So it's a way to document things for the report and for the case in general.
So I'm going to go through a series of autopsy photographs. Some of these obviously are going to be sensitive in nature, so I give everyone fair warning that they are coming. If we can just go through them and you can explain the purpose of the photograph and what the jury is seeing, okay?
Certainly.
Showing what's been entered into evidence, the State's Exhibit 63. Is this the as-is photograph?
This is the as-is photograph of the decedent as he was received in our office.
We see some wires that are coming from the chest. Is that evidence of attempted resuscitation efforts by first responders?
Yes, they put 2 defibrillator pads on this gentleman in an attempt to revive him.
We see bags on the hands. Is that what you referred to in an attempt
Yes,
to preserve any DNA evidence if this in fact was some type of struggle or close contact?
that's correct.
Showing what's been entered into evidence, the State's Exhibit 64. What do we have here?
We have an as-is picture of one side of the left hand. In homicides, we photograph all 4 sides of the hand, the back side, the palmar side, and the 2 additional sides. We do that before the body is cleaned off. So it documents the hand as is, as well as documents the 2 articles of jewelry that were present on the body when we received it.
And those are obviously collected and preserved.
It was.
Okay. And we, just so the jury knows, we see there that 22-441. Will we see that in various photographs throughout?
You will.
State's Exhibit 65, what are we looking at here?
This is actually a cleaned up, what is sometimes called an identification photo of the decedent that shows the full face. It also shows that there are some injuries on the face, but it's generally called the ID photo.
So the ID photo in State 65, those injuries to the face, those were likely as a result of the fall?
They are consistent with the collapse injuries, yes.
So that's not the entry wounds. We're going to see that in a minute.
Right, those are not the gunshot wounds, no, sir.
Showing what's been entered into evidence, the State's Exhibit 66, is this going to be the cleaned overall body shot?
This is the clean overall body shot of the upper portion of his body.
State's Exhibit 67 is that same picture but lower?
That's the lower part of the body after it's been properly cleaned up.
State's Exhibit 68, what are we looking at here?
We're looking at the cleaned up picture of the upper half of the back surface of the body.
Now, we see a discoloration that we did not see when the decedent was on his back. What is this? Explain it to the jury, please.
The discoloration that you see is what's called livor mortis. That's the passive settling of blood in the skin due strictly to gravity and position. It's commonly seen on the back of people, especially if they've been either in a hospital bed or their own bed or on the ground or something like that. So it's common to see it on the posterior surfaces of the body. Not always, but common.
And that does not indicate injury of any sort.
That is not an injury, no.
Page 69. State 69, are these the 2 entry wounds?
These are the 2 gunshot wounds that I observed on the body.
And can you tell that they're entry wounds?
You can tell they're entry wounds.
How do you tell that?
Well, one actually both were fairly easy. One did not have an associated exit wound. But if you look at them, they're generally round, and they have a rim of abrasion around the edge of the wound, which is consistent with entry gunshot wounds. Those are the 2 big things, usually round or oval shape with abrasion along the edge of the wound.
And this is, just for record purposes, the jury can see it, this is going to be the upper left shoulder of the decedent?
It's the back of the left shoulder, yes, sir.
And then State's Exhibit 70 is going to be a close-up of those 2 entry wounds?
This is a closer-up picture, which we use the L ruler with, which gives a better measurement and a better photograph of these gunshot wounds.
You indicated that one projectile did not exit. Was there evidence that at least part of another projectile did exit?
There is an exit wound on his lateral right upper arm, as demonstrated in this picture.
So the jury can tell the difference between the exit and the entry. What the exit is not going to be symmetrical.
It's not going to be symmetrical and is generally not round. It often has a very slit-like appearance, and when you put the two edges back together, it's almost like they fit together, almost like a jigsaw puzzle piece. And if you look closely at the edges of the wound, there's no associated abrasion along the edges of the wound, as you can see by this close-up picture.
Next photograph of State's Exhibit 72.
Yes, that's the close-up of the exit wound that I saw.
So let's talk, I'm going to publish State 73, but before we talk about 73, can you let the jury know the associated trauma from those entry wounds, what happened to Jared Bridegan's body as a result of those gunshot wounds?
I can. One of the gunshot wounds went in and struck his left clavicle, fractured the clavicle. That projectile actually broke into several fragments, 3 larger fragments, which I recovered. 2 were by the fractured clavicle, 1 was in the muscles of the neck. The other gunshot wound went through his left common carotid artery and his left jugular vein, 2 very large blood vessels which are associated with blood flow to and from the head. It also passed through the pharynx, that's the upper airway where your vocal cords are located. After passing through those structures, it hit the right clavicle, fractured the right clavicle, and that's when a large fragment from that shot actually continued on through the right shoulder and exited through the lateral right upper arm.
So specifically the damage to the jugular vein and the carotid artery, would that lead to death in almost every situation?
Without immediate medical intervention, that would definitely be a fatal gunshot wound.
And when we check someone's pulse, we're looking at on their neck, are we going for the carotid artery?
That's correct.
That's because it's a large artery that supplies blood to your body.
It's the largest artery in the neck.
And the jugular is what, the largest vein in
It's
the
the
neck?
largest vein in the neck, yes.
So even though the location of the gunshot wounds were in the shoulder, they went through some very important parts of the body.
Absolutely, they did.
And those would have rendered a victim incapacitated virtually immediately. Is that fair? I mean,
Well, it's hard to gauge exactly how quickly that happens. However, when blood flow to your brain is compromised, as would have happened with this gunshot wound, you can lose consciousness very rapidly, sometimes as little as 15 or 20 seconds. So it could be not instantaneous, but very quickly.
so we look at State's Exhibit 73. Do we see, could you point out, you can circle on your screen, the projectiles, fragments that you were able to locate?
Certainly, and I'll just preface that by saying, before we actually even open the body in homicides, we do full body x-rays, of which this is one. This is an x-ray of the head, the upper neck, and the upper chest. There are 2 large fragments that are visible in this x-ray. That's one.
Doctor, when you're looking at the screen, can you keep your voice up? Okay.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
There's one that I circled. There's a second one. That is from one of the gunshot wounds. The other large bright object is a large piece of the projectile core. That's from the shot that went through the carotid artery and the jugular vein.
If you could use your finger and not your nail, then we can, I think, can see it. Unless we already can see it. I couldn't see it. There we go.
It's visible.
Okay?
Yeah, I think the jury gets an idea of what they're looking at now. Thank you.
Okay.
And going to State 74, do we again see evidence of those projectiles?
We do. There's a large projectile fragment, which I just circled, and also directly adjacent to that, you can see where the clavicle has been fractured.
Actually obvious. You don't need to be a radiologist to see that, right?
That's correct, and I'm not a radiologist.
75, what do we see here?
We see another shot, which includes the left upper arm and portion of the left shoulder, as well as one of the large projectile fragments that I recovered in the left shoulder.
And do you collect all of these fragments?
Those fragments, excuse me, they are collected. They are properly photographed and then sealed into evidence envelopes, which are placed into secure storage at our office and then signed over under proper chain of custody to the police.
So we see them in State's Exhibit 76, and then close-ups in 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82. Is that fair, Doctor?
Yes, those are the fragments that I recovered from within the decedent's body.
May I approach the witness, Sharon?
Yes.
And we see those actual items in State's Exhibit 93. Just State's Exhibit 93 composite. Are these going to be from your office of those actual fragments and projectiles?
They are, that's my handwriting on the 3 envelopes.
Sure. And then in that, we also have a photograph of a victim's blood card in State's Exhibit 94. What's the purpose of taking a blood spot card from the victim?
We take a blood spot card because if DNA is found under a decedent's fingernails, we need a standard to compare it to. It could be the person's own DNA, or it may be from someone else. So we have to have that standard in order to determine if it's DNA from someone else.
And you and your team collected that?
I collected that personally, yes, I did.
You mentioned earlier the concept of clothing, State's Exhibit 83, 84, 85, 86, 87 are going to be all the clothing that you recovered from Mr. Bridegan?
Yes.
And do we see defects in the clothing that are consistent with the gunshot wounds that you documented?
We do. There were 2 defects in the posterior left shoulder of the clothing corresponding to the gunshot wounds that I found.
Did you perform a toxicology of the decedent?
I did.
Why do you do that?
In the homicide cases, we do that as a matter of routine. Toxicology findings can have an impact on the case, especially if people are using illicit drugs, stimulants, things like that. So it's another piece of evidence that we need to have in order to do proper classification.
And what were the results of Jared Bridegan's toxicology screen?
The only thing we found in the toxicology testing was caffeine.
Did the caffeine have any part in Mr. Bridegan's death?
It did not.
Was there any natural cause or disease that you found during the course of the autopsy that would explain Jared Bridegan's death?
No, there was not.
Can you determine within a reasonable degree of medical certainty that this was not an accident or a suicide?
Well, from what I gathered from the scene, a weapon was not recovered at the scene. If he had shot himself, there probably would have been a weapon there. So it does not appear to be a suicide. As far as an accident, again, there was no weapon found at the scene, so I think an accidental shooting could be safely ruled out.
And you have multiple shots as well.
That's correct.
And certainly the angle of entry would have been very, very difficult for a person to shoot themselves, either accidentally or intentionally.
That would have been difficult, yes, sir.
Did you note any soot or stippling from gunpowder on the clothing or the entry wounds?
I did not see any adjacent to either of the entry wounds. It can sometimes be hard to see on clothing, especially bloody clothing, and his clothing was very bloody, as a matter of fact. Just with naked eye examination, I did not see anything like that.
And if you did see that, what would it tell you versus not seeing it?
If you see those substances which come out of the gun when the bullet is fired, it's not just the bullet, there's other things which come out, including burned and unburned gunpowder, which is the soot and stippling you referred to, that can help us to determine the range of fire. If they had been present, that's a fairly close gunshot wound because those substances can only travel perhaps 2 or 3 feet. So it does help us, doesn't tell us exactly the range, but it gives us an estimation, a good approximation, actually.
So a good approximation is that the firearm in this particular case was at least 2 or 3 feet away from Mr. Bridegan.
Yes, sir.
What is your expert medical opinion about the cause of Jared Bridegan's death?
My expert opinion is that the cause of death is multiple gunshot wounds.
And what is your expert medical opinion about the manner of Jared Bridegan's death?
The manner of death was classified as homicide.
Your Honor, that's all the questions I have.
Thank you, Mr. Mujahid. Cross-examination?
We have no questions for the doctor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. May the witness be excused. All
Witness may be excused, Your Honor.
right, thank you, Dr. Gillespie.
Thank you.
Will that be last witness for today?
Yes, Your Honor, we went faster than we thought, so we apologize for not having another witness.
No problem. Members of the jury, that will be the last witness for today. So before you leave, let me say that it's important that the lawyers are heard, so I require that they wear body mics. So if they have a second before they turn them on, please just forgive that, okay? So it's something that I'm requesting that they do so that they can move about the courtroom freely and also that they can be heard as well. So don't think anything of it if you are thinking anything of it at all. Next is tomorrow we're going to start at the same time. So again, everything was perfect this morning. Thank you for getting here early. Thank you for being ready to work. We're going to start again at 9 a.m. and we're going to go to about 5 o'clock every day. Today we're going to break a little bit early, but again, thank you for your time, your hard work. I'm going to remind you to follow the communication rules that I've put into place since the very beginning of this case. And so with that, we will conclude with you, and the court will be in recess. Thank you. See you tomorrow.